The only time Kai Wynn ever seems like she's human is when the actress was literally on the verge of death from the flu. Here on Feature Please. Vile visit to Bajor. My name is Joseph.
From Bayside to Bajor. This episode's gonna cover all the bases. Here at Deep Space Nine, I am your co-host, Peter.
Peter, what episode of Star Trek did we watch this week?
Deep Space Nine, Season 3, Episode 13. First aired January 31st, 1995. Teleplay by Ronald D. Moore. Story by Christian Ford and Roger Sofer. Directed by Reza Badia.
What is the name of the episode, sir?
Life Support.
Life Support.
Talk about something that has no ties whatsoever to your B plot.
I was so happy to be back after our brief adventure back into Voyager. You're like, man.
Were we too negative?
We were pretty negative about a caretaker. But it was good to be back, and I remembered this A plot vividly. I completely had forgotten about the B plot. And this might go down in history as one of the biggest A plot, B plot disjointed combinations in Feature Please history, at least. It is right up there with the classic Enterprise. The butt probe aliens are going to kill us. Also, what's Reed's favorite food?
Reed's favorite cake. Let's do.
He finds out it's a cake. Yeah, like what you're trying to get a birthday cake for Reed and needs to make sure it's something that he would like.
What was it? Pineapple?
Yes. It was the investigation revealed that he takes a medication so he can eat it. And that's what gave Hoshi the insight that it was his favorite food.
This A plot, B plot business, I don't think Deep Space Nine has really indulged too heavily. And it's something that they really got away from by the time we got into season 4 of Enterprise.
Yeah.
And I think Enterprise holds the crown for the worst A plot, B plot bearing, specifically what you just mentioned there, where literally the entire ship is about to fucking be overran by very brutal aliens, and you're worried about what kind of birthday cake he likes. But I think overall the crown for the most of that kind of content was Voyager.
Oh, definitely. The quantity is there, yeah.
Tragic pairings as we've got a new Starfleet Academy. We're running out of cargo bay. Meanwhile, Neelix's cheese is about to cause a warp core breach. And it's usually the sign of like really, I think, usually like shitty, desperate writing.
Yeah.
Because I've seen out of Deep Space Nine, and I saw out of season 4 of Enterprise, that when you have a compelling story, 45 minutes just isn't enough. And that you will run through the amount of broadcast runway at the snap of a fingers and be like, damn, that was a lot of content. That was a great story. I want more. How could we have possibly fit more in? And then sometimes it's just a turgid, awful story that neither side feels great to watch, and you're still wasting time on the screen. And Deep Space Nine has had such great writing that just doesn't have it. So this episode, you've got a pretty solid A plot.
Mm-hmm.
And actually a pretty solid B plot.
Yeah, the A plot and B plot in of themselves are good stories. It's just the tonal disparity between the two is so vast. Them being in the same episode together detracts from the experience a little bit. It's a different kind of failure of like, oh, okay, these both work. Put them in. Oh, fuck. Like, what do? We didn't shoot enough to do one or the other, right? Like, we have to put them both in this. How do we structure this in a way that makes it work? And it just doesn't in the end. You keep them as separate as possible. Ultimately, they don't touch each other. They have nothing to do with each other because it's all you can do.
Do you think that the Nog and Jake antics distract from the tone that the A plot is trying to establish?
I think the intention was to give tension break via using the B plot because the A plot is so heavy. What's that?
That's like the Deep Space Nine thumbprint is that maybe that's the trade-off. We respect the audience. We respect the breadth of knowledge that the audience has, and we respect that the audience can acknowledge the terrible stakes that we are creating. And because we're putting so much emotional load on the audience. We are going to try to vent the pressure as much as possible with hijinks. Like sometimes you get a straight episode that's just tragedy, the
Right.
Odyssey's destruction, parts of this Bell riots and stuff. And then sometimes it's like this where I think he could have leaned in more, and I don't think we needed this, Nog telling a woman to cut his food up and potentially spit it into his mouth.
It is a thing that makes sense when you're writing it. It may even make sense when you're shooting it. The weakness is probably was not known to them until they edited it. They're like, put this footage together. How are we structuring this episode? And they're in the bay and they're like, oh, fuck, this doesn't work.
I
Right?
think it's more of a showrunner thing. I feel like this is a showrunner formula of, again, we want to do this big stuff, and the compromise is going to be we'll throw some laughs and everybody would be more accepting of it. So as you build these scripts, put in some shoots and ladders for some zingers.
It's a shame because it distracts from, like, we're doing this up front because actually I think there's a ton to enjoy and explore on the A plot here. And the B plot itself is a fun moment for your civilian characters to be in the story in a way that is very slice of lifey, and we like that too. And it's a shame that both of these pieces are going to essentially be degraded in the overall estimation that of this episode because of their incompatibility with each other. But let's get into it, man. I think there's plenty of meat on the bone, and it starts with the B plot actually, and what you already referenced, which is there's a new girlfriend now. Jake, the most successful bon vivant Deep Space Nine, evidently, has moved on from Marta and has the eyes of Leanne, who is different than Marta in two specific ways. One, played by Lark Voorhees of Saved by the Bell fame. So this is Lisa Turtle. And two, while Lark Voorhees is actually older than Jill Sayer, who played Marta, she reads is closer in age to Jake and is also black. Probably helps. So that's probably why this is happening.
How many episodes is she around for?
It's the only appearance. She's referenced in dialogue, but this is the only time she's on the show.
I was really surprised to see someone from Saved by the Bell on Deep Space Nine, and that's awesome. I hope we get some AC Slater a little later on. Can do without Screech, though. Although,
and what about Zach? He's got that time freezing powers. It can be helpful against the Dominion.
Oh, I'd take Zach Morris as a Q.
Yeah, Zach Morris is like partial Q. Yeah.
Move over. What was her name? Amanda
Grayson.
No, the Q that is on the Enterprise that Riker. Amanda.
Yeah, I think it's Amanda Grayson.
Amanda Rogers.
Amanda Rogers. Okay. Yeah, we was thinking. Yeah, the blonde lady. Yes.
I'd take Screech. Was his name Dustin Diamond?
Yes.
Dustin. He can bring that energy into a Ferengi character, I think. Give me him as Rom's high school rival.
I don't know. Like, it appears that the cartel on playing a Ferengi is very specifically confined to Jewish actors. So, not sure they're going to let him in.
I don't know.
They seem to have that pretty much locked up.
I could go with AC Slater as a very charismatic gull who gets vaporized.
Be a good Cardassian. Yeah. Jim Bro sports jock Cardassian.
He's got the neck for it already, man.
He does.
Should we just talk about this B plot?
Yeah, let's bang out the B plot real quick.
We start with teenage romance in our cold open, and it works great.
Sure.
You see Jake working this thing. This girl's very obviously into him. Yeah, I'm not dating my boyfriend anymore. Here I am. By the way, this is the sore thumb for the episode for me. Here I am, a very nice girl, and my very nice friend who I'm going to bring into the station's worst double date. What are these two nice, reasonable people doing on this deep space gas station that is about to become the battlefront of a major war? Like, didn't all the good people get the fuck out of town? Hasn't this place effectively been reduced to like Gotham City status where
Or for an episode that otherwise has actually fantastic spackle in its A plot, could have spared a line to say that like maybe her parents are Starfleet officers, or that she's got a civilian job on the station that makes her vital, or depending on where you want to put her age, like if you're trying to have her read younger because you felt like you went too far with Marta, then you probably make her a similarly aged lady to Jake and having a similar backstory as connected to Starfleet. But
Let's start a new game. Let's start a new bit. How stupid does Memory Beta get? Pull her up. Spin
all
through.
right, okay. Let's explore Memory Beta. Leanne.
Because here I'm gonna say that it turns out that she is actually a Section 31 contractor who was set in to get close to Cisco's son, so she can get a better look at what's going on command structure wise, and that this is really a Section 31 spy.
All right, so here we are. Guess what? Rare, unexploited side character. Leanne has never appeared in any kind of secondary Star Trek work. She is her only thing in here are her references within Deep Space Nine episodes alone.
What do you need to be?
Unlike Tamini Kamor's unseen daughter, who has like 8 books, never used.
What do you need to do to constitute as beta content? Just print media?
Yeah, so the memory beta content is 2 major vectors: books and comics. Tertiary, I guess, video games. So there's a lot of STO content in there, which is like now separate as like a separate timeline and shit, like because it's so wild. But it's mostly books.
Your wife, great artist. We are media. What if we do a limited run comic?
Oh, bro, dude.
Penned by your wife about Lisa Turtle's recruitment into Federation CIA and her high school spying mission on Jake Sisko.
I actually have a much better idea. This is a legitimate one.
It better not be erotic fiction, because I'm not writing that for... Why, no. Yeah, does slash fic get to be incorporated in memory? Do we need to make new enemies with the beta wiki admins as we start a campaign of...
No, I think that there is a spot for us to create a one-shot comic of our adventures as our insert characters in Deep Space Nine as hapless mid-ranking officers dealing with the chaos and backstory that we've started to develop in our skits as it relates to who you are and who I am. Like, that actually could be fun to do. And that we are the ones that end up interacting with these cast off minor characters that don't see ever again.
Listen, I'm happy to drag Lisa Turtle into Memory Beta. I don't know if I want my name in Memory Beta. I count that as a black. Perfectly reasonable person. Hey, what are you doing Friday? You know what? I'm supposed to go play Domjot with Nog. What am I going to do? Am I going to go play space poker with my quirky friend and some trucker trash? Or am I going after one of Bayside's finest?
Tough call. Call. Nog invites himself into getting a double date by basically guilting Jake a little bit over breaking the arrangement they had to go play pool with some locals who are frequenting the truck stop, and that goes poorly when I don't really understand what the species of the friend was. That was a little difficult for me to figure out. Her name was Riska. What is she supposed to be? Doesn't say. Unknown species, never shows up. Just has giant forehead, right?
Well, here's Memory Beta on that. She coincidentally is actually a third-party contractor for the Obsidian Order, who is still trying to smuggle weapons onto Bajor to decentralize or destabilize the government.
See, we're already writing a plot for our comic,
and it's an odd pairing that you've got a Section 31 plant and a Obsidian Order plant working together on the state scene. My wife's watching the episode with me, and I mentioned to her Aaron Eisenberg's deal. These early seasons, he really does, like, you you look at him in the wiki and you look at some of his later work, like it starts coming through that this guy is an adult, but like when he's really geared up to try to present as young as possible, like at this point he almost seems like he's younger than Jake.
Yeah, he comes off as less mature, certainly.
Great acting, and there's a nice comedic timing that they capitalize on here while still creating an anxiety. So
Yeah,
a lot of this stuff.
he was like 27, 28, by the way, when this episode was being shot. Aaron Eisenberg.
So it's been a while since we've seen these two put together, and it's an interesting place for them to pick back up. And you know, they do this double date. It's terrible. The running gag about how bad Ferengi treats its women, and the differences there. And I really like the follow up on the back end where those cultural differences are spoken directly to and not necessarily condemned by Sisko, but acknowledged. And you see this nice growth moment. You see the antithesis of Catherine Janeway, who had all these hostilities and these preconceived notions about the EMH that would just recreate themselves as Voyager would reach homeostasis at the end of each episode. And here's Sisko, who had very strong feelings about Ferengi and has grown past those specifically because of his son's, I don't want to say guidance, but you know, these shared experiences with his son
His
out
son's
on Deep Space
example
Nine.
that he drew inspiration from. Like, it is a great character growth moment for both of them because first, it's a direct acknowledgement of those past scenes. They don't go into tremendous detail. It's not like they're trying to beat you over the head with the continuity, but they remind you, like, Sisko had this opinion and he expressed it, and he even just admits to it. Like, I did say that, and I was wrong, and you were right, and you should not abandon the thing you were right about that I learned from you on.
But then
You actually need to listen to yourself.
Jake's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Before you go too deep in that, I found out I was wrong as I just got cheated out of bedtime with Lisa Turtle.
And like Sisko's
Maybe
like,
what if I
you spend
wasn't?
so much time drowning in Marta's titties that I'm not going to hold out for you any sympathy for the fact you weren't able to hit 2 home runs in a row, son. Please, like, spare me.
But
Right?
Dad, what if I was wrong, son? I think you might have a problem. And if only we had some sort of psychological guidance counselor services or something out here, I might have you treated for sex addiction, frankly, at this point. But out here on the frontier, we don't have those soft touches of luxury.
It is as always a great father son moment, and it's also showing their growing relationship as, you know, Sisko's gone through this process of my child is no longer a child. He is almost an adult, and I need to be treating him more like one. I'm still his father. I'm still guiding him. I'm still responsible for him. He's not quite there yet, but this is a circumstance where I'm going to talk to him like a man, you know, that's more like a peer and less like my kid.
I want to talk about guidance or counselor services real quick. Deanna Troy's presence on the Enterprise D, I think, is one of the, I'll say more outlandish, but one of the bigger push. Like, that had to be something that people are like, who the fuck is this lady? Why is that on the bridge? Why is that a part of the show, let alone on the bridge?
Yeah.
You know, and there's, you know, she's hot and they wanted to present this very soft, silky counterpart to gruff Tasha Yar up there. Like, I get why it's there. But in retrospect, and they never really use her fully until you get laid in, but like Voyager especially, and now in Deep Space Nine, and you see the stress that these people are under and the kooky shit that happens and the tragedy of war and all those other things. And so often, you know, we've had these discussions like, who should this person be talking to? In Voyager, it turned into Chakotay, who became this very emotionally intelligent person that was a great soft touch resource to kind of like guide the crew through crisis of faith and hardships. And I'm going to be looking for like, who is that person going to be here on Deep Space Nine, where absolutely some bad shit's in the pipe. And you've got this big civilian, like Deanna Troy's slot went from being so absurd conceptually to like watching this later material, like absolutely, they need diplomats and they need mental health professionals.
They do. I'm warming up to that idea myself. It is interesting you're bringing this up now. Uh, this question never receives the cleanest answer, but I don't think I'm revealing too much by telling you that eventually there is a mental health professional character on this show. And how they get there is kind of interesting, and what they do with it is very interesting. It's one of the things that I find the most interesting that other people don't about the show. I'm going to say nothing else because it would tell you too much.
Sure.
So keep your eye on it. There
The
will
only
be
other
things about this.
the only other example I have to draw off of is Lower Decks,
The Bird Doctor.
the Bird Doctor, which again, absurd until he gets some of these episodes and you're like, I mean, yeah, like this is something that should be out there. Federation antidepressants can only go so far, which, you know, is our running joke, but you need to have something to facilitate these people who are doing the kookiest and most scary of shit, especially right on the precipice of this space
and you
bubble.
also, and they're away from their families, they're away from their partners, spouses, and the biggest glorious thing about being married, as we know, is that you have an intimate partner that you can have be your resource as it relates to mental health, and you do that for each other, and it's what good marriages ultimately, grow and love for each other because of that. And now you've got none of these people have those connections except for the very precious few who are able to have the opportunity, and they also are. It's difficult for them to form those relationships with each other because they're all in the same chaotic mess together, and that creates complications for their work that can be disastrous. So there's even more reason for there to be one particularly emotionally available person whose job it is to be that resource for them. And Troy in particular is extraordinarily well positioned and ultimately eventually well used as that figure.
And it becomes an enabler to telling other stories. Troy's presence let the Barkley character become as interesting as he did.
Yeah.
And that just wouldn't have been there if she wasn't on the table. I think
it also made Worf more interesting because Worf had somebody there who had to, like, that was able to get under his armor. That's like one of the better ways she's used in the show is actually when they pair her with Worf. He's dealing with raising Alexander, and she's inserting herself into that in a way where she's helping Worf's emotional issues. She is being a figure for Alexander's growth in the absence of her mother. And, they try out at the end some romantic stuff that I don't think was necessarily a good idea. And, it's at the end of the show, so it doesn't really end up mattering very much. But, everything leading up to that made a tremendous amount of sense and is a great use of her character and how she is able to be one of the most useful members of the crew because she manages to help everyone else be ready to deal with everything else.
You've got Jadzia, who does have a deep emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that we're having this conversation because the A plot specifically should have leaned into this. And I don't think Jadzia is really tapped at all for it, but it does highlight this other thing that I'm seeing in Deep Space Nine, which is it's not to the degree of Voyager, but a tent pole, at least at this stage of Deep Space Nine, is that there is a limited economy. They do not have the bottomless resources of the Federation. There is not an endless supply of officers. The replicators are there, but there's starvation on Bajor. You're dealing with these limited economy problems. And one of the way it's representing itself is you don't have the right crew. Your commander is not really this emotional available guy. Yeah, there is Jadzia. But because you don't have this permanent, in this case specifically, mental health resource, you're able to bring through alternatives as special guests. And you're able to jerk the audience around in that, where sometimes you get somebody who is a great therapeutic resource like Loxana Troy,
right,
who was there for Odo in a very big time of need. And then sometimes you get Kai Wynn, who should be this deep. You had Kai Opaka, who was this deep, warm resource that was great for the crew of the Fest. Or then you get a fucking abuser like Kai Wynn that completely betrays the position and is a poison pill through and through.
I was about to say, like, religion, clergy can often be that character, and they play with that number of different ways in this episode, which I want to get to here as quickly as we can. We'll tie up our discussion of the B plot in a moment, but I did want to offer one last thing on this topic. Is the best mental health professional on Deep Space Nine presently Quark as the bartender?
Yes.
I think so too. I think there's actually been multiple scenes of him giving good advice in a very specific Quark way.
Mm-hmm.
He is warm. He's actually quite emotionally intelligent. He actually has a moral core
That's a
that we've
great
seen.
spot, man. That's a great spot. Because he is so easily painted as a rogue and selfish and Ferengi and blah blah blah. But like the scenes with O'Brien,
Yes.
I mean he's been solid for a couple people in a few clutch things, as long as the Latinum's on the table.
And not even necessarily when Latinum's on the table, just merely when that part of himself emerges. And there's reasons it does, and the plot always does a good job of having them emerge for a reason.
It's a limited commodity. Sometimes Quark is there as a helper, and sometimes he's trying to drug you so you lose a racquetball game.
Yes.
Right. Again, there's
and that's the danger. It's like, yeah, Quark can give you that, but you've got to play a little roulette as it relates to exactly what version of him you're going to get.
I need to
because it's Deep Space Nine. This place is a hellhole. Your mental health professional is a Ferengi bartender who might help you, but might also cheat you,
might drug you.
So anyway, the B plot wraps up after Jake does the one thing the boss's son can do, which is go to Odo and say, would you falsely imprison me so I can make up with my friend? And Odo, absent any real morals, is happy to do that. And they get put in prison together, and they have a nice moment of they recognize their cultural differences and they don't condemn it. They're like, we're different and we're just going to have to deal with it because we're friends. And that's how we're going to manage the situation. You're not going to come on double dates with me, Nog. You treat women poorly. And he's like, you know what? I kind of do.
And I know that you would have... Nog comes out as a superstar. Like, he looks real bad during the date, and he looks bad before. Also, his capacity to stroke his own earlobes while he's plotting, knowing what we know about earlobes and touching earlobes.
Yeah.
If you, Joe, I got a date, and you start talking about how you want to be a part of this date, and while we're talking about the potential of a double date, you started sitting there and rubbing your dick through your pants.
Red flag. Maybe don't do that. Yeah.
You know what? We're not doing this. Actually, you could go get arrested on your own, buddy. We're not. We're not. You. How dare you? He is played for laughs early on, but his ability to quickly deduce that this entire thing is a setup, that this is not a real incarceration, and finger Jake as the reason why he is there. Great deductive reasoning, and looks really good on him, I thought. And then also, I knew you were going to have a problem with the way I am. What if I told you I already was scaling things back? I know you didn't like her cutting up my steak. You're lucky I didn't have her fucking chew the food and spit it in my mouth. Like, I am making accommodations already. I'm trying to find a reasonable center with you. I need you to do the same thing with me. And they're able to reach that. And it's nice to see this fantasy world where people can come from opposite ends and find
and resolve their differences through peace and understanding and conversation. Yeah. Woo, science fiction for you. Oh, lordy.
And then, you know, of course, the true price of doing business with Odo is that he does have a incarceration fetish.
Yeah, so he's going to leave in jail for a while. Why? Yeah.
He's busy in the other room touching his ears.
So let's get on to the A plot, which this is a Bashir episode, which I think does tremendous amounts of good for his character in one very specific way that has been touched on but has not been as firmly developed until now, and that is that Julian Bashir is a supremely talented medical professional. And I don't mean just in his skill, I mean in his moral awareness, his ability to command as it relates to medical ideas, and his fearlessness in being a doctor. And to the degree that his character starts to really take off, it is when the show figures out, like, oh, this is how he can be compelling. He's going to have all these other things going on about him. He's the youngest. He's going to, love life, all that stuff. But in the end, this man as a doctor is real good. He is the best you will ever see as far as doctors on Star Trek in terms of their raw capacity at their job. And
you're putting them both flocks, huh?
I put him above Phlox. Yeah, like Phlox is a great character. Phlox is a fantastic
Okay,
part
well,
of
you know what,
Enterprise.
Joe? We'll see how many Borg drones Julian Bashir successfully rehabilitates with his 24th century medicine. I think that you are right, and I think that based on what I'm seeing, there is going to be a good argument that Julian Bashir is the spiritual successor to Dr. McCoy.
Yeah,
Because what he really forges here is this is a guy who very quickly reaches a point where he doesn't give a fuck and is happy to set the uniform aside and get raw
yeah,
with
and
patient
that's it.
advocacy.
And you have no idea how powerful an element of that is going to be for his character moving forward. Like that specific thing you just said. There's so much that I got out of the scene when he goes to Kai Wynn and says, I'm here to get you to do the right thing. And if you choose not to, I'm going to insult the space pope of Bajor to her face. And when she threatens me back, I'm not going to care. I'm going to look right back at her and tell her I'm going to remember what she did too. I don't give two fucks about who you are or what you're doing if you're doing the wrong thing. And for him to have that kind of moral clarity without coming off as a piece of shit is a hard line to walk. And they find out like, oh no, it turns out we have an actor who can handle that, which shouldn't come as a surprise because ultimately Julian Bashir is played by a man who has become a very successful movie star. Senegal Fidel is everywhere. He does everything. He's done Game of Thrones. He did Kingdom of Heaven. He did The Spy on Netflix. He's he is a guy who turned his career into something bigger after Deep Space Nine in a way that I don't think anybody else did. And you start to see it here.
This is all important stuff to start transitioning this character from the very timid, limp-wristed guy they brought in season one that was like
The
so
boy toy, the
skittish
young lad.
around
Yeah.
uh, Cisco, and Cisco just bashing him left and right. And like, this is how they're building the character, is having him in as many direct opposition antagonist scenes with the baddies as possible. So now he's told off Gul Dukat. Now he's told off Kai Wynn. I mean, who else is he told off? I feel like there's another one floating around out there. Like,
You've told off the head of the Obsidian Order.
oh
Flew to his
yeah,
house.
not forget about
Told him,
that
help me
guy.
save Garrick's life or fuck you.
Mm-hmm. And it's this fun spot that only a doctor can really occupy, because this is the guy that, you know, the great equalizer in life is death. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. At any point, something bad can happen, and you're going to end up on that operating table, and you're going to need this guy. He's not a disposable commodity.
He's also one of the few men who can tell the commander what to do. That he has the ability to take people off of duty, to say you are not allowed to do things anymore. My judgment is so trusted. I have been given this position that I can make a medical determination against your will because I think it's the right thing. And establishing a character like Bashir, who's supposed to be the youngest and most inexperienced person on the station, as in a position of ultimate authority on matters of life and death, that he is able to wield in a fashion that's very deft and does not belie an ego, which is shocking, right? Like, he's not doing this because he thinks he's hot shit. I mean, there's some hot shit stuff to his character that, like, on the side, but when he's in this mode, there's no ego here. It
This
is
is also
damaging
why
to his career to go tell the space pope of Bajor, fuck you, to her face. And he does it anyway because he's trying to save his patient's life and he knows it's the only way he can do it.
Do you think there is a better doctor on all of Bajor, or do you think really at this point the best medical care available in this part of space is on Deep Space Nine?
I think it's absolutely that he is the best medical professional in anywhere near Bajor.
Which would make sense. I mean, these guys are coming off post occupation, and despite the
Not the least
disjointed
of which
nature,
because he's fucking Augment, which we'll find out later, but you know.
absolutely. But again, he's got this power of like, I'm going to tell the space pope of Bajor how it is, because there's a good chance at some point you're going to get fucked up and you're going to be up here for service too. Like we again, this Deep Space Nine, there is a limited good. There is um, a deficit of material
Yeah.
with personnel and other things. And right now, boy, is Deep Space Nine lucky to have me, this fucking rock star. Boy, is Bajor lucky to have me, this rock star. And I'm going to have a power that I can use to get cheeky with people, because you can't do better than me. And you're going to need this as we go along this trip. So
The frame of the story is also quite interesting. Medical emergency on a Bajoran transport. No one knew the Kai, Wynn, and Vedic Boreal were on the transport because they
they
were trying.
love being cheeky with these surprise visits, don't they? This is like the
Well, they
fourth
weren't
time.
intending to go to Deep Space Nine. They were going to a meeting that we'll ultimately find out with a one of the legates of the Cardassian military that they have been engaging with treaty talks with. So there's an accident. Vedic Boreal is severely wounded by a plasma coil explosion. He's giant burn, irradiated, bad news. And there's even a bit of spackle about why they couldn't even beam him directly to sick bay. Like they took the time to put that in, that the radiation leak was preventing it. And so they haul him into sick bay. There's a great scene where you get to watch like Bashir do medicine, and it feels very real.
Feels real
Despite it,
because they put him in the red robe. I haven't seen these things in a while. The red
yeah,
surgeon outfits with the Devo hats. Love
surgeon
them.
outfit with the Devo hats are back, man. It's not just a thing on the Enterprise. That's a Federation standard PPE, apparently.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And the nurse gets lines too.
This fucking
Jabra.
mouthy ass nurse. She was cruising for a bruising, like
But
fucking negative Nancy over there.
it allows, though, some dialogue to happen in the scene. And, you're talking about fantastical space magic medicine. So to be able to deliver on doing that in the scene and making it feel like it's real is a talent in of itself. And that's a combination of the director, the writer, and the actors finding a way to do that. And it's very well done here. I get the impression that he is a supremely talented doctor in all of this stuff. And there's just enough dialogue to explain what's happening without sounding like too much technobabble.
I want to sidebar here. The mission that they are on, this clandestine meeting with the Central Command, and this is coming out of the religious arm. This is not the
Yes,
provisional government. There is
correct.
no involvement of any government voted appointed
Minister.
civilian.
Nope.
So this is a real power play by Kai Wynn to, I would say, very clearly start usurping authority on Bajor away from the voted officials, as fucking shitty as they are, because ultimately, frankly, Skeletor was completely right.
I was going to say, you're about to say his name and then he found his real name.
Mm-hmm. This provisional government sucks. They are a disservice to the local population for whatever reason. And rather than spearhead a reform, Mrs. Hey, I stole the fucking Kai seat, is like, I'm just going to steal this too. And what better way to make myself look better than this government is to get fucking Cardassia to say I'm sorry.
Your instincts are undefeated, but I can say nothing else because this is plot for the season.
So
yeah.
There's a lot of this episode that if you just watch it superficially, it's whatever. Okay, this is a story about Kira losing her boyfriend, right? And the feelings of duty and some other stuff, but in reality, this is a story about making sure you know damn well that Kai Wynn is a real piece of shit who does not value life, who's the most Machiavellian of Machiavellians, and is willing to sacrifice everything for the most trivial of reasons, and take those trivial reasons and get some.
And sacrifice someone else's life as CYA too while doing it, which is like I mentioned in my open that the actress that plays Kai Wynn was suffering from a terrible case of the flu, evidently while shooting this, to the point where she had to like lie down between takes and stuff. Louise Fletcher. And I think it actually helped ultimately in the production of the episode because the first part of the episode, you were left with a distinct impression that maybe Kaiwin has changed.
Yes.
She comes off as softer. Seems deeply, authentically appreciative of Vedic Barile.
Yes.
The scene that she has with Cisco in his office, where she like I'm going to tell you all the secrets, what's going on, that he is the person that's the reason this is happening, and even admits like I don't think I could have been as forgiving as he is of me. Like referencing directly, yeah, I tried to fucking kill his ass in season
Mm-hmm.
one. You know that, and I know that. And I'm not going to say it. You're not going to say it, but I'm going to tell you by saying this that, yeah, I get like he has no reason to trust me, and yet he's given me all of his trust, and I've been changed by that. They make you think Kai Wynn's there, and it helps that she's sick because she seems a little bit softer and quieter and calmer, and maybe it's true. And then you find out piece by piece, inch by inch, that it's not. That she's still the same piece of shit that she always was. It was
Every
all an
inch of
act.
all of this is rotten. And I just watched
Yeah.
the Naked Now episode. Found it. What was it called? Fascination.
Yes.
And Vedic Barile showing up there. I mean, there's great groundwork that gets laid of, hey, things are actually going really great. She is impressing me, and everybody's surprised that this is such a good combination. So yeah, this all seems like a very simplistic plot until you really start looking at the deeper motivations, needless motivations, and selfish motivations that she has tied up in all of this. And the whole thing just becomes so incredibly nefarious. But yeah, right there when they're unloading the transport and bringing people off, and I see her, I was like, oh, fuck, I forgot this bitch. I got so distracted by Lisa Turtle, I forgot this bitch was going to be in here. Like, what terrible things are going to happen? Boy, if only I knew.
Yeah, I don't want to get away from Kai Wynn's duplicity too much yet. Just I want to explore a little bit more. The way that she puts Vedic Barile on this pedestal to start to kind of get the Starfleet crew to get on her side while dealing with what's going on with her health, with his health, and setting up to have the secret talks now on Deep Space Nine rather than going to where the Cardassians are. And the way that really she is only confronted by Bashir about this until the end. Um, I find quite fascinating. Cisco is the one in the past that's been the one to fucking beat her ass up, right?
Yep.
To look her in the eye and say, I know exactly what the fuck you are, and you're never going to fool me about what you are. And she does the same thing. We've praised it, right? They've had these
Yes.
scenes where they have this delicate dance with each other where she is stuck with him as the emissary and he is stuck with her as the Pope, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they have to exist with each other. They both have a mission that's somewhat similar in that like Bajor needs to prosper, but he needs to get them into the Federation, and that's not necessarily what Kai Wen wants at all because that's not good for her power.
Absolutely not, as was driven home in the episode where they bomb the school, that the Federation is agnostic and represents this moral travesty of lack of faith, and that is where her power structure is specifically rooted. So joining the Federation must be an incredibly dangerous proposition to her personally.
You could draw people away from the faith, and that would make her less relevant. And instead of having Cisco have that confrontation with him, because instead you kind of draw him into the B plot instead for the scene with Jake, you instead, and you don't, and I guess the other person you could use is Kira, but Kira essentially invests herself in what Vedic Barile wants, which is to make this work because he authentically sees it as his life's work.
Kai Wynn is a expert manipulator. And what she has done is been able to look at Deep Sheets 9 and say, what are the values that this crew, what is the moral framework that they are operating on? What are the tent posts? Because that is going to be what I am able to climb to chop this place down and get what I want.
Yes.
And ultimately, these are people who want peace at all costs. This is a military organization that can respect self-sacrifice. This is the Federation where consent is everything. And you need to have this this authentic reinforcement that people can choose their own destinies, even if it's something you don't like. And now, how can I manipulate all these things to get exactly what I want in this situation? Okay, I want this peace conference to happen so I can steal credibility away from the government, so my name can go down in books as getting, this historic thing and put up my approval rating and blah, 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 blah. I need Vedic Barile on the board to do that. I don't think she wanted him to die, but she's certainly willing to sacrifice him. Okay, well, I'm working towards peace. I'm working towards getting Bajor in a better point. I'm working on hurting the Cardassians essentially by costing them credibility. I want to acknowledge his agency in this and respecting the patient's wishes. And I'm going to trust in your technologies and your belief that science can always save the day. So there's this false hope that maybe he survives this thing. What part of what I'm trying to present to you guys is me being unreasonable? These are core principles of your group's dynamic, and I'm just here going with the flow.
And my two principal antagonists are A, the commander of the station, who was also the holiest person in my religion, much to my chagrin, who is, once Bajor joined the Federation, and normalization with relationships with the Cardassians will make that easier.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to want this to work. And my other primary antagonist is the Bajoran liaison, who hates my guts, but at the same time loves this man. And if this man is convinced that he needs to do this no matter what the cost, she's going to be defanged as opposition. And it leaves only Bashir as the person with the objective position to be able to confront her. And that's actually what they do in the episode. It's very well done.
Kira Nerys, who loves this man and wants to respect his agency, who also wants what's best for Bajor and sees this as a huge fucking win it is, and also knows that the Cardassians are temperamental and there's a limited window to cinch the deal on this thing. And also is deeply religious. And when I sit here and say, it's the will of the prophets, if he dies, he's going to walk with the prophets. You can't tell me fuck off like this. I don't want to lose this guy, because then you're saying you don't believe in the afterlife and you're going to discount all the religious stuff. Like, she's got Kira by the balls hard on this thing.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody's got buy-in that she is working towards the greater good, and the sacrifices are worth it here. So really phenomenal job creating a reasonable scope of consequence and allowing characters to make awful, terrible, blatantly bad decisions because the motivation is there and it's real. And the only person that has like kind of an objective look at all this, because they're not conflict of interest on any of it, is Dr. Bashirenstein, as he as he enables this poor man to shamble forward towards his own completely unnecessary death.
And this is why you shelve Dax for most of the episode, because you want to give Bashir all of the space to be able to be the hero, right? To be the protagonist of this episode, which he ultimately is. Dax comes in at the very end for a bit of moral support, but I think it's good that she's not in the episode, because otherwise it would confuse what's just a very tight package of material. And the acting in this episode in the A plot is just fantastic. I am not a fan of Vedic Barile, but you get the best you can get mileage you get out of him. More than that, Bashir, Kira, the Kai Wynn, like all of that stuff, I feel it, I believe it. They're living in the material in a way that allows me to suspend my disbelief utterly, which is the best compliment I think you can give a piece of fiction. Like, I believe this happened the way you did it.
It's
Good
also
job.
such a classic Star Trek story of something terrible has happened, but science was able to save the day. This guy dies on the operating table, and they give Kira, who, I don't know what's going on with her hair right here.
Yeah, they kind of like halfway between the old gym teacher cut and something else, and it didn't work.
It looks like Steve from Married with Children, Al Bundy's neighbor. Like, they brought over the same hair and makeup person from Married with Children. They had her handle Nana on this one.
The gym teacher cut works for her. It's okay. Just stick with it.
Hey, sorry he died. Thankfully, you're not going to be able to subject the audience to another terrible kiss, Silver Linings or whatever. Goes back and finds out, oh, actually, some science nonsense happened, thinking this might be the focus of the episode. Instead, the science, the post-mortem Federation revival techniques happening here are just plot beats. Hey, we can bring this guy back together. What are the odds he has been just dead And not only can we bring him back, but he has been preserved to a point where there is not noticeable brain damage. Wow, what a miracle. And that's, I don't know if they say miracle flat out, but like that's the vibe.
No,
He
no, no. That's exactly what Kai Wynn says it is. Nothing less than a miracle.
he is here for a reason. And yeah, Dr. Bashirenstein has brought this thing back from death, but clearly this is the will of the prophets. The stakes are so high on this. Her power as a vicious manipulator and being utterly ruthless is that she gets a lot done with minimal effort. It's just thorough bad faith acting where she is betraying trust every inch of the way. So it's minimal course correction, it's minimal power plays, and she's just letting the bad happen around it and just nudging it here and there to keep it on the track she wants.
And the fact that she is openly manipulating Vedic Baril's weakness in front of everybody to make him want to like that he can not letting him go and not letting him rest and not letting him save his own life because she finds it too difficult to do this job without him is so
Two-pronged.
like I've never hated her more than when she's in that room with Cisco and they're like talking over like he wants something and she's like I'm just not built for this. If I need Barile. I'm not I can't do this. And it's like
It's too hard.
it's too hard. And I've never hated like that man is on the verge of fucking death. He has barely been saved by Bashir and you just can't rally yourself to let me help you. Like Cisco's right there saying like I'm we can do this. We can figure this out, right? You and me, we've got this. We could work together. But she doesn't want to do that because she doesn't trust Cisco. And she doesn't want to do it herself. She wants to basically be, armed by her subordinate to go in and get the win.
Two things. One, I assume when you're saying Vedic Baril's weakness, it's his sense of duty.
Yes.
Which has already been expressed by his willingness to hide Kaiopaka's terrible secrets, almost at the cost of his own life, and certainly the cost of the Kai Spot himself.
Correct.
And as Bashir will call it, that Dr. Bashirenstein will call out later, there's two reasons why she wants Vedic Baril. A, he's got the keys to making this easy for her to successfully navigate. B, if things fall apart, he becomes a patsy. He is the safety net, so she is not the one who's taking an L. And I think as you're talking about the potential of working with the emissary, with working with Cisco, if she were to accomplish this, it's not the Kai locking it down, it's the emissary.
It's the emissary of the prophets who's also the commander of the Federation running Deep Space Nine, and it brings it closer to the thing she doesn't want, which is Bajor joining the Federation. The Federation helped make it happen.
Cannot involve him. She
cannot have that.
She will not share the spotlight if she's victorious, and she cannot shunt a loss onto him as a patsy to the same degree she could a subordinate. So that scene where Bashir's real talking her and says, not only are you willing to sacrifice him to get the win, you're dragging him into this thing so you've got him to throw to the fucking wolves. Like, that was really, I think, the best scene of the episode in terms of showcasing just how devious the writing is in her portrayal.
Agreed. Completely agreed.
So he's able to get him back. Hey, everything's great. You just need to chill out now. Like, this is the part of the episode where you're just off the board and you're going to go have your romantic talk with Kira, and you're going to have to reconcile the fact that the last time we saw you, you were a complete fucking clown shoes trying to hump Dax and getting your ass beat by Cisco, and you get none of it because she pulls him back in, and it becomes this game of what are you willing to sacrifice of your own humanity and your health out of this sense of duty to see this this negotiation manifest. And it's an interesting looking glass for Bashir, because oftentimes in Star Trek, technology saves the day and nobody really bats an eye at it. And he really starts putting up brakes, pumping the brakes on, like, you're sacrificing too much humanity. We've started with this one procedure. Now here's a drug, but the drug might have side effects. Side effects might include you're dying, you're pooping out your organs. We're going to replace those with cybernetics. Now those start fucking up. You're going to have a brain hemorrhage. I'm going to replace a part of your brain. Also, I love the fact that like they're not really covering him with like Borg stuff, minus this patch of his skull that's missing, where he gets like this cyberpunk yarmulke, basically.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And this guy is just trading pieces of his body and his humanity away
For time.
for
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. For
And
time to be
everybody's
able to
watching
complete his
that.
mission.
So the Federation doctor, being the one who is adverse to the cyborging, is also something we really haven't seen before. Usually it's the doctor that advocates for like, let me use science and medicine to...
Well, he's trying to prevent it from being necessary, which is the correct move, right? Like,
Right.
hey, we pulled a crazy last second save. It's had some, secondary effects. I need to research it. Can I put you in stasis? I don't want to do anything to you. I don't want to do anything more to you. Are a fragile being, sir. Like, you died and then I got you back to life under the most unlikely of circumstances. We need to you are 1 micrometer away from shattering into a million pieces. I can't reassemble. So how about we chill? And he doesn't want that. It's like, well, the lot I can offer is this drug that 22% of the time fucking kills people. You can do that. That starts to work. It's unfortunate circumstances. And he's like, okay, I really need to put your ass in stasis now. But if you insist, this is the only thing else I can do. And he keeps trying to throw the brakes on because he realizes the more and more severe my interventions become, the more likely it is you're going to die, which is actually how medicine generally works in these kind of trauma circumstances. Is you want to do the least amount of intervention, because the more you dig, the more you have to do surgery, the more you have to make alterations to the body, the more likelihood there is there's going to be complications, that things are going to be rejected, and you're ultimately going to come up with the bad outcome. And he keeps trying to tell Barile that. He keeps trying to tell Kira that, and he realizes that's not the problem. The problem is the person that's making him make those choices, which is why he then goes and confronts Kai Wynn first to plead, and then when realizing that she's a fucking monster, just calling her one to her face, and seeing if that can shake her out of her moral frame. And of course, it doesn't work because she's a fucking monster, and he leaves resolved to that at that end. And the story there about the medical interventions culminates with the positronic replacement of half of his brain, because he's like, this is where you're going a bit too far. And he goes on a great little speech about, like, even now in the 24th century, the function of the brain is a difficult thing to understand. I have experience with this. I used to work with emergency physicians that researched the impact of traumatic brain injury, and they very specifically talk about this very concept a lot, about the a lot about like the vascular system and how like the brain functions on a base level, but consciousness is very difficult to understand. Consciousness and the impact of injury on the brain is as imprecise a science as one exists as it relates to the human body. And the idea that in the 24th century, it's like we have a lot of technological advancements, but this is still a fucking mystery. And there is a point between when you can fix things and when you are going to make somebody a robot, and their spark of their humanity is gone. And that is explicitly stated by the otherwise agnostic Federation doctor, to say, like, there's a thingy here that goes beyond science, and if you start fucking with it, I don't know what comes out of it. Yeah, can I like fix this? Maybe, but I don't know what he will be when I'm done fixing it. And he says that, everyone decides to do it anyway, and when he wakes up, you see what he means. Because Vedic Barile is not the same man he used to be. He can only barely, like, kind of remember what he used to be. Like, something a part of him is deeply diminished as a consequence of what's happened.
It's horrific.
It is. And not to him, it's horrific to everyone else.
The Kira grabbing his hand and him just openly saying, like, I feel disconnected. This feels like...
I feel like this is a memory of you touching me. Like, it doesn't feel real that you're touching me.
Really... it's not on-screen gore, but the impact is there, and it's real, and it's ugly. And again, through all of this series of miracles that he's pulling off, all it's doing is further reinforcing to the three principal people that are involved in this, Wynn, Barile, and Kira that this is the will of the prophets, that he is being afforded these series of opportunities. He should already be dead. He's already on borrowed time. And their willingness religiously to look at this and saying, well, wow, that was a close one too. This is happening for a reason, and it's your obligation to see it through to the end because the stakes are that high. And the stakes are that high. I keep trying to like find a way to be like, just, could Kai Wynn realistically keep a great advisor around and do this? And the answer is maybe to agree that she just simply isn't willing to roll the dice. And she is absolutely willing to
She'd
stack.
rather win and let this guy die than have any
Her name's
chance of
not
failure.
Kai Wynn for no reason, right?
Yeah. No, she played the game and she won in
There's
a
no
way
L's.
that others wouldn't. And the end result is maybe anticlimactic in a good way. They succeed. The treaty is signed, and Vedic Bareil is going to die. His brain is failing, and Bashir reaches his limits where he says no. Like, I'm not replacing the other half of his brain with positronic implants. He won't be who he is anymore. I'm not doing that to him. I would
I
be the one to kill him if I did that, and I'm not going to do it. I get to refuse now.
I didn't like this part, and they're
I
not
love this part.
wrong.
That's interesting. Okay.
They're not
Go ahead.
wrong. But him refusing treatment when Star Trek and the Federation have a very long track record of keeping people alive, not in a way that they used to be, but in a way that is still some sort of life and exploring new life and new civils. Like,
I think that's the point he's making, though. It's like, this is not going to keep him alive.
yeah,
That's
but
that
listen,
difference. He makes a very good, passionate case of this isn't keeping him alive. It will kill him.
he
He will
does
not be a man anymore. He'll be some kind of automaton, and that is worse than death.
make the decision to die his. And that's the problem in this, is that now suddenly,
He's made
now
the decision to die. He's okay with dying. We know that about Veratic Bareil. That's why we're here.
yeah, but listen, you could have had the scene with Vedic Bareil where they say, this is what we're going to have to do to save you. And Vedic Bareil can say, I've accomplished my mission. This has gone too far. I do not feel human anymore. I recognize that I've sacrificed my humanity in the name of this. Here's some additional trauma for Kira and Reese. I'm choosing not to continue in this format, and I would rather die with a little bit of a man. All the stuff that Bashir does, you could have given the agency to Bareil to do it. And since the entire byline of this episode is patients' rights advocacy, have him make the decision instead of all of a sudden, now this is where Bashir says, I'm not going any further. Because if you've got...
I see your point. I see the value in it, but I think it's actually better that Bashir is the one that draws the line, because he's the one that's done intervention after intervention. He's the one that the reason they're here is his ideas and his skill. And at the terminal phase, for him to be the one to make the decision to say, I'm the expert in all of these things. I have done everything everyone has asked to do the most ridiculous life-saving interventions one can imagine. And I cannot do what you're asking me to do because my ethics about being who I am and being capable of this demand I do not do that. And he makes a really good case for that.
Can you think of any other time where a Star Trek doctor has denied treatment minus Dear Doctor? And I'm not saying that Bashir doesn't deserve to be the first to actually do it. And I don't think that this is a bad scene. I just think the better scene would have been Bareil. And maybe they didn't want to take agency away from Bashir.
I think there's something to be said for Bashir to have to put himself on the line and say, like, this is my choice now. And I'm saying I have been the one absent choices in this episode. Bareil's had choices. Kira's had choices. Kai Wynn's had choices. I have fulfilled my duties to the best possible extent I can. But now I choose, and I choose not to kill this man. I'm not. And I'm going to convince Kira that's the right thing to do, and he does.
Well,
so I think that's an interesting tension there. I see your point about, there's a value in putting that in Bareil's hands, particularly when he's in his half-dead state, where he could have added more trauma onto Kira's plate based on how he acted and how he spoke to, like, basically devaluing his own life because he'd been stripped of so much of it. They really didn't want it to continue. I'm not saying that wouldn't have necessarily worked or have been a good way to end the episode, but I think the way they ended it does work for the episode, and I would not change it.
Well, speaking of Hearts of Stone, next, Deep Space Nine, Season 3, Episode 14, Heart of Stone. There's Kira laying in the caves, and Otis looks like he's comforting her. Searching for a Maquis radar on an unstable moon, Kira's trapped in an expanding crystal formation that threatens to engulf her if Odo cannot set her free. Meanwhile, Nog, this A-B plot back and forth, huh?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Nog attempts to persuade a skeptical Commander Benjamin Sisko to write him a letter of recommendation to join Starfleet Academy. Well, that's coming out of left field, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's not no spoiler to you that Nog ends up joining Starfleet, but
Yeah.
um this is kind of like where Nog goes from occasional side character to recurring character. And you aren't going to do this with Jake, but you kind of do want to do it with someone. And I think
Yes,
they found a much more interesting way to do it by doing it with Nog,
absolutely.
and a way to have him evolve as a character and actually evolve the whole of the Ferengi as a consequence. Um, and do some real interesting stuff with him moving forward. But and this is also a big one of X of N of Kira and Odo having a romantic subplot that seems to stretch on into infinity before it finally culminates at some point in the future. But these are two really good actors. Whenever they do this stuff, it comes off well. So,
But yeah, this life support, like I think, again, a casual viewing by my wife for say, like it's not awful, but it's not hitting as deep as it clearly does if you've got some investment in this thing. And I think the title to go with our podcast on this one, as it, unlike fucking life support, which does not apply to the A plot B plot, should be chewed up and spit out, which
oh
does
yeah,
apply to us.
it does. And I hope you have finally been 100% convinced at the fact that Kai Wen truly is the worst villain Star Trek ever created.
Listen,
It's got to be there now, man.
Jessica's still sitting there. She's got ways to go. All right.
All right. Well, trust me, there's plenty left for her to go. And we'll see everyone next week.